Well, I was saying it's probably about time that we started talking about, what we're supposed to be talking about.
All right, now I'll turn on my recording software. Because I don't think our Halo rants are going to make the episode.
No, and I didn't turn it on for those. I figured we needed to pregame on a game that we don't.
I needed to talk writing to calm my brain down. Then we needed to talk about other random shit. We have like an hour and a half setup period for this, man. We gotta do something better.
I mean, I don't mind the conversation. It's fun and cathartic. I also had a timer set for 2:00, so the actual start time. We are starting on time, sort of. I mean, we are ranting about a rant about rants, so.
We really are.
Like a volcano.
Greetings, beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Charge Everything. I am Kai. And I am ready to charge things. Oh my god, yes! How's that?
Yeah, that's good.
Because that felt good.
Yeah. That's it. We'll keep that. And I'm Eiley, and I'm suspiciously also ready to charge things. Wait, why?
Suspiciously?
Suspiciously. I don't know if that was the word I was going
Now
for.
I'm suspicious of why you're suspiciously. I mean, it's a bold choice. And a strange one, but nevertheless.
Not auspicious. Suspicious. Very different. But audacious nonetheless. And we are back. I didn't save it. This is a disaster.
Do we need to start again?
No. We keep rolling. It's already rolling. We're doing it live.
Okay, we've hit a speed bump in the charge, but we're over it. We've hit a hurdle. We've blown through the barricade. We're okay. We got to keep moving.
There was a
forward.
grot in the way.
I know the last two episodes, I feel like we had a lot of good talk about character development. How do you make a narrative character? How do you do these kinds of things? And I know we talked about our next episode wanting to be about the mistakes that we've made. But then we played in this little thing called Everwinter Con in Boston. And some shit popped off that I feel like we need to talk about. Because I think this goes directly to the heart of you got to experience, in my estimation, in my point of view, the thing that I've always loved. And the thing that helped form my characters and my character development and kind of what drove me to love narrative gaming, which is you got to play on a tabletop and shit popped off in a way you never expected it to.
Yeah, it did. I think one of the things that it showed me was what I've been missing from animosity being a largely online thing and not really having a good local gaming group, let alone one to begin with. I think it showed me a lot of what I was missing and what I need to kind of, keep the narrative drive going, so to speak. And that's definitely gameplay. It's something I've been missing for a while. Yeah. The last time I put models on the table was probably when you and I played in the Weekender in Winchester, Virginia. And then 2 months later, my girlfriend and I played a game. And that was the last time I put models on the table. So it's been...
And that was for... That's been an age.
That was a year ago?
That's at least a couple of years. I was going to say, because that was Fall of Amasia. That was the last Weekender, I believe.
That was 2022.
So yeah, about a year.
Yeah, so it had been about a year.
Now.
Because Antdor Supply was just this past September. So yeah, it had been about a year since I could put models on the table.
So let me start off with this, because I actually have written out, I think one of the true joys of everybody getting to witness Kai in live and in person is just how organized I can be and prepared for things. So I actually prepared a thing.
Oh.
And it's because this is your first time kind of doing it. So I want you as an exercise for me when I ask this question, to walk yourself through what your expectations were going into this event, what your challenges and hurdles were in getting a concept, a narrative idea into a physical form with your models, and then getting them to the tabletop. So what did you expect when you made your warband?
This is going to be a good challenge, and Eiley needs to not speak so nebulously on a podcast. Oh, boy.
So let's start with what was your concept and your expectation going into creating your warband first. Let's start there. And then we'll get into the specifics of what started happening as soon as you started actually building your warband.
So the concept, and we'll put pictures in the episode, was I was going to actually finally put the Finkers on the tabletop. So I was going to get my mixed tribe of Gorka Morka together, and I was going to put them on the tabletop. So the first one I needed to do was pick a greenskin faction. There was a hot minute where I was actually going to just play Stormcast, but I decided, no, I should not do that. I got to get this is going to be my challenge, get the orcs on the table, and it worked. I eventually settled on Cruel Boys for a couple of reasons. The first one was I had some Gut Rippas already painted up, so that saved me a lot of time, and my painting came right down to the wire. So I'm actually really glad I did that. And the other one was they looked like the most interesting to play. I went through the Iron Jaws and the Bone Splitter stuff, and on top of needing to buy some models for them to really flesh out my warband, I was not nearly as interested in them from a gameplay perspective as I was Cruel Boys. I like Cruel Boys. I like the lore. I like how they play. I like that they're very, in theory, very tricksy. I mean, they end up just being like pillow-fisted with extra steps, but they have a lot of really cool abilities. And when I played Cruel Boys when they first came out in Warcry, when the Bolt Boys were busted, I really liked them, so I thought I'd bring them back. And boy howdy did they nerf those. But that's a story for another day.
So you walked in with finding an army that you wanted to play, that the rules excited you, the narrative lore fit with what you were trying to do in the concept. Now, I know you had some struggles with the hobby.
Did you know forcing yourself to paint sucks?
Why? Yeah, I was setting this up beautifully as now do you understand why it takes me 20 years to make a Bretonnian army?
I learned a lot of important lessons on time management, and it got to be such a problem that like it turned into a conversation with my partner where she's like, yeah, so the next time you do an event, you're not going to do all the painting last minute, right? No. Now, why did you do that? Because I kept putting it off so I could see you. Don't do that! So I didn't see her for like the whole month leading up to the event, and that, she was not happy with me about that one.
But no, I think this was a problem. I was going to say, this is a very real, this is a very real part of any gaming, whether you're into that, I don't want to call it the C word, when I refer to competitive, but it feels right to but I think it's a challenge for anybody who wants to put miniatures on the table and play, whether you're doing it narratively, competitively, or just, some beer, pretzels, and a couple of friends. It's getting that motivation, getting that desire, and then getting over that hurdle of actually doing it. And, this is one of the reasons why I love Warcry as a narrative game, because the hobby hurdle to get into it is small. The rules hurdle to get into it is small. But the potential of what you can do once you're in it, like the narrative possibilities are massive. So it's just like you can have an easier time getting people involved into it, getting yourself involved into it. And then once you got models on the table, there's a lot of complexity in the gameplay and how you deal scenarios, and the narrative constructs you can build around it can lead to some very fun and interesting potentials. But So you got through hook and by crook, and some motivational help and some locking yourself in a closet. Buckled down. You got models on the table. You get to the event. What was the?
So actually, let's take a step back real quick because I want to talk about the models I actually used.
Okay, definitely.
As a quick aside, so my list was because this is a narrative campaign. You only get to start with one hero in a fresh roster. Remember that this was an event. We talked about it briefly last episode, but remember this was an event where existing and experienced warbands were allowed so long as you had a roster for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how many people actually ended up taking advantage of that. I think there was only one or two people.
Very few.
And they definitely had extra heroes, and it was terrifying. So my hero was a killaboss with rusting flail and sword. I think that's what it is, or rusted choppa, the dual weapons. The model I used for that was Bjarvit from Arena Rex. Really high quality resin model, really good sculpt, and fit Faithin's character really, really well. And I think a lot of people really liked that model. I definitely had a lot of people asking me where I got it from and what game it was from.
It definitely stood out as an excellent centerpiece model.
Yeah, I got a lot of compliments on my models, which I was not expecting. I didn't think I was going to get... I generally consider myself a below average painter, which... So it was really weird to see people be like, "Oh my god, how'd you do the colors on your models and stuff?" And I'm just like, "Dude, it's just a wash. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Just thin your Mornfrang brown a lot."
Welcome to mid-tier mediocre, where you think it's trash, but everybody around you sees what it is, and they're like, "That's awesome." They were not bad. They were very solid models on the table.
Well, thank you. After that, my Gut Rippas were a mix of models. So to kind of give the Humans of Gorka Morka and Mixed Tribe vibe, I want to say a good 4 of my Gut Rippas were humans. I used the Mantic Tribesmen from their Northern Alliance range. Not just because I love Kings of War and I naturally gravitated towards Northern Alliance, but also because it fit the setting. And it fit what I wanted the clan to feel like, which was this mishmash, visually jarring and juxtaposed style, because it's not a regular force, it's just a group of whoever shows up. The fun hobby stuff I got to do there was I got to paint little different colored charms on various parts of their shields, which does a lot of really good visual storytelling. So some of them had some purple, of course, because the Cruel Boy shields had purple on them. That was my color of choice because they're sneaky. But sometimes I got to use blue on a shield, so Lucky, or black, so Deadard, that kind of thing. After that, I started adding those colors actually because, excuse me. I started adding those colors because I got sick of painting 5 different shades of brown. It made me want to gouge my eyes out, and this is why I got home and then I bought Bretonnians, because I need some color in my life, please.
I do remember a very anguished scream into my DMs saying, what else can I do? And I was just
I think I almost called you just to scream and then hang up. At one point, I was just like, I need to go scream at somebody or something before I lose my mind.
And it can be, there can be that monotony, especially in, models that have that same kind of, their clothing is the same, they're kind of from the same area. I feel that sometimes especially when I'm doing my Tau, everybody's red. And it just, after a while, it's just I need to set them down and move on to the next thing. But one of the things that you touched on there that I would like to kind of to pick at a little bit more, you said your concept was always you wanted to bring the thinkers to the table. And the thinkers are all about
thinkers,
big wah.
F. Use the right affricate. Yeah. F. Think.
Look, My mouth only moves in certain ways if I want to sound clear and enunciate for the microphone. Inkers
You're not being proper.
is not going to come over. No, I'm a Bretonian knight. I'm never going to be orky enough.
Then you should know the sound is used very rarely in French, if at all, so there's still no excuse here.
Yeah, I'm an American
Check
who
and
plays a
mate.
Bretonian, so...
Linguist 1, Bretonian 0.
Why is this a competition? I am willing to accept that I have mispronounced the name of your warband because my mouth doesn't move that way. Nevertheless, the point I'm trying to make is a much more expansive one, and I think a very good point, especially for people who are grappling with the same kind of problem. Or I shouldn't say the problem, but are grappling with that same kind of struggle, which is the thinkers are meant to be an all-encompassing, expansive WA. Anybody comes. Anybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome. And yet you have to choose a single rule set to represent them. But in building your warband, you were still able to incorporate that idea of big WA by how you modeled your each individual units while still using essentially a single army list.
Yeah, that was
Do you feel like that was... Yeah, do you feel that honored what you were trying to do narratively and helped you in certain ways?
It did, because it kind of kept me going, knowing that I had a theme down pat that was very difficult to translate to the tabletop effectively. And it works really well because the biggest issue I had was you're limited to one hero, but in Cruel Boys, your heroes basically do everything. And you have about 5 units, give or take, that are not heroes, and they basically all do the same thing, which is if they hit somebody, they do only 1 damage, and if you crit, well, then that's really exciting, but that's never going to happen. Well, never happen as often as you wanted to say I should be.
I remember getting a few crits getting hit on me, and we'll come to that in a moment, but...
Well, venom-encrusted weapons helps a lot. So, you get one engagement where you get to hit somebody really hard by forcing crits. And your Bolt Boys can get crits on a 4+ if they don't move. So, but again, that burns a double. So you have some options, but it's not... You're definitely the most I felt like I was the most pillow-fisted warband at that event. And I was correct to bring 15 models. So after my leader, I had 6 gut rippas. I did 3 spears, 3 swords, and that really helped with the having the different sculpts for each one because it's a human with a sword or an axe. Okay, gut rippa with a choppa. Does it have a spear? It's a gut rippa with a spear. End of story. Easy enough to do. I brought 3 Bolt Boys, and I think that was the right number. I was hesitant that was going to be too many, but that was definitely the right number to bring. They did enough damage at range, and they were able to take out, very key chaff pieces that I needed off the table to secure an objective. And it gave me a lot of reach, because a lot of people showed up with fast models that could grab objectives and run away with them. And Cruel Boys move about a whopping 4 inches each. So, well, yeah, I needed a 15-inch gun.
Well, you are faster than most of mine. I'm just going to point that out.
Okay, I was faster than the dwarves in heavy armor. You are correct. I was slower than everything else, including the other Cruel Boys, because somebody showed up with Monster Hunters. And, dude, those orangutans hit like a truck.
Well, let me ask this question then. When you played them, did you feel like you had Big Wah on the table? Did it feel like you had the inkers?
He's going to be upset with me for the rest of the day, and that's okay, because I have a pathological need to get under your skin every now and then.
You corrected me, so I am over-exaggerating the correction.
Woe be to Keyframe. Hope you have a pop screen there, buddy. I'm going to say no.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily trying to emulate Big Wah. I was trying to emulate a culture. I'm going to turn my record. Hang on.
Well, let me change the question then for you on that. Did you feel like what you wanted to accomplish narratively in presenting this force was what you were able to accomplish when you actually got to play it on the tabletop?
To the best of my ability. I would have liked to have had an elf and a dwarf in the mix, but I knew that the dwarf was going to be too hard because of the silhouette, and I didn't think it was going to be something I was going to be able to get away with strangers. I thought that the elf would have been nice to have. I did want to have an elf, but I just couldn't get it together on time on a scale that looked right and felt right. If I had more time and frankly more money, I would have bought one of the new Mantic Icekin Hunter Half-Elf Berserker kits, hybrid kits, and I would have built at least one awesome up to use as a Bolt Boy. There was a point in time where I was going to take a Bolt Boy base because it's a oval base. No, it's not. No, it's not an oval base. It's a 40 millimeter base. I was going to put an Archer on it and call it a Bolt Boy, but again, I needed the silhouette to be right, and I couldn't quite get it right. And I had already started painting this all up, and I've had about 2 weeks to get it together. And by the time the idea struck, it was too late. I didn't want to use stab grots as the stab grots. I wanted to have Noblar trappers because
well, I mean, that's an obvious
Craven
cool
is supposed to
choice.
be a grot. Or sorry, Craven is supposed to be a Noblar, not a grot. So I didn't want to use a stab grot, but it's what I had. And when I went looking for Noblars, it was about $75 for 10. And that was more than I was willing to pay for
that's a little stiff.
a tiny metal model where I was not guaranteed the sculpt I wanted. So I took 2 stab grots as well. And then I took I had a pot grot in the roster because this was part of when I made my warband. I posted Animosity. One of my coworkers was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and we did a GoFundMe to help give some financial relief to the inevitable. So I had said for every $5 somebody donated, they got to pick a model for my warband, and I had to use it. And Alex donated, and he made me take a pot grot. So I did have a pot grot in the roster as well. So what do we have? We have Killaboss, 6 Gut Rippas, that makes 7. And then I had 3 Bolt Boys, that's 10. I think I had 4 actually of each Gut Rippa. That makes more sense. That checks out with like my mental image of the army. So I had 8 Gut Rippas, 4 of each, 3 Bolt Boys, 2 Stab Grots, and a Pot Grot. And then the Killaboss. I did not bring an extra hero. I didn't bring a hero to recruit because I didn't know that was a thing we could do mid-campaign.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad I didn't because...
Yeah, I pretty much... I mean, I looked at it from the standpoint of we were following genuine Path to Glory. Is it called Path to Glory in this? But we were following the narrative rules, which meant as you gained renown and glory in your after turn phase, you could spend your renown and glory in upgrading and adding in different things. I think a lot of us just didn't do that and just stuck to upgrades of our existing warband because you were allowed to bring your spell hunter. So you had a second character built in for free. And, I think a lot of us just ended up throwing upgrades on them.
Yeah, for sure. So, actually, let's talk about her a little bit. So for her model, I took the... I'm going to forget what they're called.
So... I didn't want to cut you off midstream there, but I feel like this is the important context. So you had your regular warband of up to, I think it was 1,300 points. Games were going to be roughly at 1,000 points, increasing by 50-point increments as different parts of the tournament, or I shouldn't say tournament, the different parts of the event went on. One of the free upgrades specifically to this thing was going to be a free hero. That had a special war card. You had 2 different options. One was kind of defensive and one was kind of more offense. But the idea was these were going to be your spell hunters or spell trappers. And their goal was to capture and hold on to the endless spells that were running around the area we were fighting in as ostensibly the major thing that we were out there to do. So our idea was to capture and hold these endless spells as the major victory points for our sides in the thing. So we got a free hero with special abilities specifically to do that, to meet the cool narrative conditions of victory for this event. Cue what you just decided to choose as your spell hunter.
So I took I think it was the Spell Smith. It was the one that didn't have a gun. They had an actual magic attack. That's how I differentiate them. I think it was the Spell Hunter. So she could bounce endless spells 2d6 inches in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I felt like had the much better ability where he could... I forget what exactly he could do. But I felt like it was the better manipulation of the spell. They could both stop the endless spells short, and then I forget what the other guy could do, but I always felt like it was the better one.
I can go get the card if we need to read
for flavor reasons.
But...
yeah, let's get the card out real quick. Actually, you do that, because my microphone is going to pick up that clickety-clackety, and I'll just keep talking while you do that. So I also took her because I felt like she had the better magic attack. I knew that range was going to be... she had the better ranged attack, excuse me. I felt like range was going to be a big deal. I only moved 4 inches, and I don't know what these boards are going to look like. And in hindsight, that was definitely the best call. She racked up quite a kill count. She ended up being like MVP most of my games, because she would just pick stuff off. They had a lot of wounds. I think that she had 18 wounds and a 4-up save, and then my last 15 points I spent on the upgrade to make her range attack strength 4, so I could hit on 3s against a good chunk of the field. It was a very good choice. I painted her up as a Wargog prophet, so instead of having the jade mask and all the jade beads, I gave her a Wargog mask that some people said reminded them of I don't want to say Jamaican folklore. I don't know if it's religious either. So it said that it reminded them of Caribbean Isle cultures, and all of her beads had all the different colors that orcs are known to believe in have power. I can phrase that better. All the different colors orcs believe have power. So I think I hit every single one of them except for yellow, because I didn't have a good yellow paint. But I think I hit all of the other ones. And then my boat was a spider. So somebody donated me my boat be a spider, and I didn't want the boat... I wanted the boat to be reminiscent of something new, and this was the same reason why I did Vaethin's pelt as white instead of black, which is what she's typically shown with. So the idea was, by this stage in Vaethin's story, there's a new color being added to the orc color theory. So I wanted it to be white, instead, to signify that she's changed a little bit, or a lot of it, actually. She's not the same war boss that she was when I first made the character 2 or 3 years ago. She's become something more. She's grown, she's changed. Her ideas of war and her ideology for war has changed. So I made it white. I made the spider and her cloak white to represent that, which is not a color that has existing lore for orcs. So in painting my warband, the colors mattered a lot. I was a little disappointed that nobody picked up on that. I wish people had, but when I explained that orcs believe in that colors have power, I had about half the people I told that to didn't even know that was a thing. So this thing that I thought was really well known is actually, I guess, kind of niche and obscure in Age of Sigmar, even though in 40k it's really pronounced.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll add to this real quick is quick correction. It's not that your warband was limited to 1,300 points in size. It's that the highest point value game was going to be 1,300 points. So, but the way that Narrative Warcry works is you recruit stuff to your warband. So really what we were doing was we were recruiting from a roster. So recruiting to your roster, and then you would pick models from your roster for your game, which is why most people could afford to get an extra hero, because that is a thing you can do in your narrative games. You can unlock an extra hero. but they also ended up bringing about 1,500, 1,600, 1,700 points of guys. I think there was very few of us that actually only showed up with a straight 1,300. And I was definitely one of them.
Yeah, because I know
I think we...
I had a few extra models just so I could, because I planned for variations of lists depending on whether or not I was playing at a higher point or a lower point. And I'm sure if I'd put them all together into one unified force, I could have had a much bigger... But I planned coming that 1,300 would be the maximum size I would play.
I planned coming that 1,300 was the capacity total.
Yeah. I brought an alternative hero model just in case I wanted to, use just in case my Commodore character got axed in the middle of the whole thing. I had another model I could represent the new person stepping up to command, but that was the intent with mine. It wasn't to have an extra hero model that I could recruit in. But no, there were two things. It was the Andorian Spellsmith and the Andorian Spell Hunter. And let's see here. They both have the same seal an endless spell, release an endless spell. So you could capture an endless spell, and then, if you wanted to in the course of the campaign, you could unleash it if you needed to win the game more than you needed to keep the spell. So there was definitely that. And the difference was the Andorian Spellsmith had an action, which was influence endless spell, an endless smell. An endless smell. An endless spell may be influenced if it is within 9 inches. Roll a d6 to influence it. On a 5+, the fighter can immediately move the endless spell 2d6 in a straight line in a direction of their choice. Otherwise, the spell moves in a random direction. Use a scatter die. The endless spell does not move again this round, and you can choose to re-roll the influence roll by allocating 2d6 damage to this fighter. So this is I feel like a very offensive dodgeball, bounce it in the direction that it got shot from kind of thing.
It was. And then, it was a lot of fun. No, go on.
No, I was just going to read the second one, which is the one I think I took, honestly. Hold on. PDF decided to hide on me again. So the Spell Hunter, reaction as opposed to an action. So this is a reaction. Divert endless spell. You can use this reaction when an endless spell's movement would take it within 2 inches of this fighter. Roll a 2d6 to divert it. On a 3+, the endless spell bounces off this fighter. It must stop its movement 2 inches from this fighter, and then it moves d6 perpendicularly to the left or the right. Roll randomly. You can choose to re-roll the divert roll by allocating 2d6. So this is definitely the dodgeball dodge.
So what's the range attack on that one?
So their fighter profile, they had a range attack. It was a range of 3 to 10 inches, 3 attacks, strength 4, and it was a 1 crit and crit damage 4. So it was a 1/4. Worked very well for my warband because everybody packing heat.
Which one did I take then? Because I can never remember.
Because the Spellsmith has a 1 to 15, 3 attack, strength 3, 2, 4 range.
That sounds like the one I took, and then I upped the strength to 4.
Yeah.
That sounds like the one I took.
Because I felt like the dwarves are going to be more reactionary, just by the base nature of them not being exactly magically inclined to begin with. So lore-wise,
that's fair.
To my short ladies, the shorties, if you will, they were very much more about we're going to capture it and being kind of a bit more reactive to what was going on. Plus, I like the idea of, Kai and his dice rolls. 5-ups seem to only work when that's the enemy ward or invulnerable save. They do not work very well for me. I will take a 3-up. That just works better for me in what I want to do. But no, it was a cool little ability. It was a cool little unique, fighter card. I really enjoy when those kinds of elements come in. It's like, here's something unique that you get to play around with. Here's something that you can add into your army. Maybe you wouldn't otherwise have had, and something that's very cool to interact with, kind of the the world and the scenarios that you'll be playing in. So I really had a lot of fun with it. My question is what model did you use for your spell person?
So, like I said, I used
Yeah.
the Jade Obelisk sorceress, and I painted her up like a Wargok prophet. So that was a lot of fun. I got a lot of compliments on that model. A lot of people said that it looked really good, and that might be the model I'm the most proud of having painted.
That was a fantastic.
Definitely her base. Her base had a lot of little details that I did super cleanly on the first try. So her base might be also the thing I'm most proud of having painted. Next to Vaethan. No, I would say I was prouder of that model than Vaethan for a long time. So that was my warband. I forgot which question we were on.
Don't worry, I haven't. So this was the question about, well, let me follow it up with my next question, which is, while you were adding these models into it, okay, so Kai has brain going and wanting to go in 4 directions. So let me backstep there a moment. So the question was asking about if you felt like you had managed to get the diversity that you wanted the thinkers to be, represented well in the warband that you had to choose, i.e. the Cruel Boys list that you had. And through your model choices, getting the feel and the immersion of experience of having that, and kind of some of the choices you made in terms of models and proxying. And the question now that I would follow it up with is, getting to play them, having them on the tabletop. What did that feel like?
That felt flawless to me. It felt really, really fun. It was really nice to see it. It felt right. But also the way Cruel Boys gameplay translate to the thinkers, I felt like worked wonderfully, because yes, the thinkers will do a straight up fight, but they're mostly known for causing a lot of problems, and then the second that their opponent's disoriented, then they engage in a stand up fight. Obviously, if you go for the stand-up fight approach after your opponent's disoriented, you're probably going to win. And Cruel Boys do a lot of that. There's a lot of shenanigans with positioning where they get, as a reaction, if, 2 of your fighters are standing next to each other and somebody finishes a move next to them, a fighter can burn a reaction to make another fighter make a bonus attack action against them, which is really tricksy because it means you get to game the action economy a little bit. The venom encrusted weapons was really nice to just be surprise, I do more damage. I felt like I got what I wanted out of their gameplay.
Excellent.
You got to punt your stab grots off the foot of the boss, and they get extra move action, so they could end of the game, steal the objective, and win. And that was super relevant. There was a lot of tricks that I got to do, and it was the most fun I could have asked for from an orc warband. I didn't want to play Iron Jaws because I felt like they were slow and all their abilities did the same thing. And I felt somewhat similar about Bone Splitters. I could have realistically gone with Bone Splitters, from a narrative to gameplay translation. I could have done that, but I felt like Cruel Boys did it better, and I was 100% right.
Now, I have to ask, and this is the one where I'm getting to have my warm fuzzies. What happened when you actually played them that you never expected would happen? When you think about the narrative of your warband, when you think about the story that you ultimately ended up wanting to tell while you were building these models, while you were thinking about how they would play, having played them, what happened? And what changed?
Well, I was glad that... I think the things that I expected to happen was I don't kill anything and Vaethan has to do all the killing, and I was mostly right. She got to kill a fair few player characters. She got to take them down. She got to run in there, and one of the scenarios, which was so cool, was Nuno, the event organizer, is a huge Monster Hunter fan. And he translated Monster Hunter nigh flawlessly to Warcry. So it was a 2v2 rush the monster and kill it and then carve it up for parts. And I got to get Vaethan in there, run her in, get the first attack, and she completely whiffed and got bonked for like 20 damage. And then she proceeded to do, I want to say, like a third of the monster's health in one go. So she got to be like, do the bulk of the damage. She got to get her monster hunter thing in because she was supposed to be, this person who's, I'm not using words very well today. She was, I've written her as somebody who was not afraid to like fight something much bigger than her with her bare hands. For better or for, actually, no, only for worse. What I wasn't expecting...
Did you have a Sir Kai moment? Where the one thing you didn't expect to be the hero turned out to be the greatest of all heroes?
Yes, but
Please tell us the legend of Grotwick.
Grotwick. Oh... it started in our game because naturally we decided to pair up round one. What I really liked about this was people got to pick the tables they played at. So the team that had the least amount of points, all their players got to pick tables, and then the next team got to come in and find the table that you wanted to play at, and you would play against that opponent. So nobody was like paired up like a tournament. So naturally Kai and I faced off round one because we had to.
Had to.
And at some point, the challenge was issued where our heroes would meet and fight. Let's ignore the fact that Kai had already shot Vaethan for 21 wounds of her 28.
Admittedly, my hero started at a wounds deficit. Now, mob math with the Abel Alburn Baking Company means we were on equal footing at that point. Again, mob math.
Yes, sorry, I was just deep in thought for a second there. So I pop my double, I roll my attacks, and I think I leave her with about 2 wounds left, and then Kai comes in and completely obliterates Vaethan in melee. But the Abel Albert Baking Company forgot somebody.
It wasn't that we forgot them, it's that we discounted what they could do. Or in my particular tactical sense, it was... There's nothing I can do other than hope. I think it was 3 wounds. I remember it was 3 wounds because it was just like, as long as if you hit every single hit on me at normal damage, I was fine. But it was only if you popped a crit that my hero would go down. So I was riding the wave of fate.
Yes, you were. And so, what was her name? Brecca.
And
so Brecca stands triumphant over the war boss. And she hears something gently rapping. The sound of little green toes tippy-tapping. And her hair... No, what is it? Damn it, I fucked up my freestyle limerick. Fuck! And up stands end on end her hair, for it was Stabgrot with the steel chair! And he comes in behind her and just shanks her for the crit and immediately kills the player character.
Yep. Now,
and so begins the legend of Grotwick. Craven the Stabgrot. I had, in the first 1,000 points, managed to cram in my Stabgrot, which is really important if you have a Killaboss, because the two of them go hand in hand. So the Killaboss has a unique double where he can give the Stabgrot an extra move or an extra attack action. So that Stabgrot can cover 12 inches in a turn, so it can grab an objective and then it can run. It can, run in there to contest an objective and just kind of hold off kind of tie up an objective to make sure that nobody has it. Although actually there's no tying objectives. It's once you have it till you lose it. So it'd be more like trying to prevent you from losing it, I guess. It's a great utility choice, and it's one that if you're going to take a Killaboss, you should absolutely take at least one Stabgrot. And the Stabgrot just... I don't even have the words right now. But Stabgrot started a reign of terror that gripped the whole event.
So one of the fun components to this event was that you could put a bounty on any fighter or hero in your enemy's Warcry list. And you would earn extra, bounty and extra gold and extra resources that you could then spend on upgrades or essentially the currency of this campaign. You could spend it freely upon doing these bounties. And if you wanted to become a bounty hunter, you could get quite the loot haul, which would allow you to really, really power upgrade if you wanted to, or win a particularly fun thing at the end of the campaign if you were the person with the most money at the end. So there were quite a few bounties that I think both Stabgrot collected and Stabgrot may have had placed upon them.
I don't think Stabgrot ever collected a bounty.
Oh.
What Stabgrot did was consistently kill things he had no business killing. Where he would always come in as the cleanup crew and just kill a fucker. In the first day, he managed to take out Brecca von Albert. So he started the day taking down a player, I'll use the word, air quotes, player character.
You took down the main character of my warband. Yeah, you took down the main character of my warband. She survived.
And in the second game...
I was going to say, she survived her roll, so she didn't outright die, but she had definitely gotten incapacitated in the battle by Grotwick. So...
Yes. He didn't do anything in the second game, but immediately somebody, recognizing the threat he would become, put a bounty on him for no reason.
I'd say there was good reason. He got
so annoyed with the Stabgrot.
I do believe this is the guy who says, I want them dead. They're going to die. I don't want to see them.
Yes. In the second game, he didn't end up fighting an ogre, but he did win me the game because he just, stole the objective and ran with it, which, okay, sure. And then in the final game of the day, the Monster Hunter game, the monster had jumped into Paul, so Chuglords, he was one of my opponents, jumped into basically his deployment zone. So I couldn't shoot it with my bolt boys. But HSG had marched his hero into line of sight of my bolt boys and my hero. So I just shot the ever-loving shit out of him to slow him down. And I think Vaethan went down either to the monster or to the Chaos Champion. And then Grotwick struck again. Grotwick sensed his moment. And he ran in there and he cut that bitch. And he downed an anointed Chaos Champion. So his body count is now 2 heroes at the end of the first day. And then he got a major artifact. He got a wand that if you have line of sight on somebody within, I think, 12 inches, you just roll 2d6 and it does that much damage. So he starts day 2 fighting somebody's spell hunter. And just does 9 damage to them casually out of nowhere just because. He shoots a fireball at another hero. I think that's really where his legend stops. I'm not retelling this legend very well. But he spends the rest of the event renowned as the hero killer and the one that just chunks people for damage out of nowhere. So Craven the Noblar, now when I go and make him a model proper, he's gonna have this black war paint and this epic pose as he's this renowned and fearless Noblar.
And this is where I want to come in and say, I call this the Sirkai effect, because it's the same things happened to me, where it's the person that I felt had no. Now, granted, Sir Kai Leonis was a paladin in a Bretonnian list, so he was a character model. He wasn't just a random, throwaway sort of afterthought of, a tiny character. So props to Grotwick here, but it was that same thing of what started happening when the dice started loving me. Things kept happening inexplicably. Things that then became kind of its own living legend as it just kind of grew. And what otherwise could be just a very simple, he managed to kill, 2-player characters, but it's everybody became so enamored with the narrative around Grotwick that it took on a life of its own. And now, the thing that's making me have like the warm fuzzies now, other than the cognac that I have been enjoying, but it's it's the joy that you have when something unexpected happens. It has a narrative life of its own that inspires your creativity, and just it puts that shit-eating grin on your face to say like, oh, this is amazing. And when other people around you are getting just as hyped, if not more hyped, and then it creates like what was originally just a random Noblar that your Killaboss kicks into combat now has a name, now has a model that it's going to have, now has a legend and a history behind it, and now Grotwick lives in infamy. I feel that's
Grotwick lives on forever.
This to me strikes to the heart
Craven.
the least craven of all.
Craven was his proper name.
Yeah.
The least craven of all, truly. I think he had... Did Vaethan take down 2 heroes? She took down the Beast Hunter boss. I don't think she took down a second one.
I feel the thing with Vaethan is...
I think his
didn't let
kill
you
count
down.
was higher than Vaethan's.
She didn't let you down in the fights. When she got in and got to Crumpin', she did exactly what was on the tin.
Except to that one monster, but yes.
Look, everybody whiffs. I'm not going to lie. Everybody's had that moment where they're oh, God. But post-traumatic flashbacks to some of the whiffs I've had with my Bretonnian full lance charges. But, you're going to have that day where it's just like, they woke up on the wrong side of the bed. The coffee was decaf in the morning. They were out of apple fritters, so you had to settle for that jelly donut. It just, things happen.
I blame her wife. Now, I had a hunch that the Stabgrot was going to be the MVP of a lot of the objective games, just because the ability to grab an objective and then run away 12 inches carrying it is hard to beat. And even, there's not a lot of warbands that get bonus move actions like that. No. So I had a hunch, and I came knowing I was going to win the objective game and never win a stand-up fight. So I had a hunch that the Stabgrot was going to be a big deal, but I didn't expect... I couldn't fathom the idea that he would finish off 2 heroes far above his weight class and just keep going. I had no idea what he was going to be capable of.
And now here's the next question I want to throw out to you, and I really want you to take a moment to give me a deep answer. We've talked a lot about our individual battles, but this was very much an event and a campaign where it was the individual battles formed part of a greater whole. It wasn't your individual win-loss, but what you did and what you were able to accomplish in each battle from the spells you captured. Winning the game was one of, I believe, 3 victory conditions that you could do to help your side. What did it feel like to be playing in a game where your battle was part of a much greater whole, and even losing could help your team?
It gave the game stakes. I felt like there were very real stakes. it was interesting for Vaethan because I both wanted to pick tables that represented how she would guide her warband to help the team, but I also, without facing off against the same player 2, 3, 4 times even. I think you played Alex 4 times.
3.
That event?
we
3. Yeah, you see, my goal was to not do that.
Well, I think part of it was like when we got into, like, Alex and I made a concerted choice that we wanted to have. I think we played because Alex and I chose to play each other for the Monster Hunter game on the last day. So in the games that we had the choice of who we played, I wanted to make sure I played my friend. I was very much of mind that there were, people that I wanted to play against, and Alex was my choice. The day following was when we started getting more into, because of how Nuno set up the group battles, he started pairing us off more. So he started choosing opponents. And I think Nuno, recognizing that, Alex and I were kind of an odd couple out, with the nature of how some of our war bands were and some of how the pairings that he wanted to do were, he kind of inadvertently kept pairing us up for the final games, which was fine because Alex and I had a lot of fun, and my apologies to Nuno, but we kind of twisted some of his rules in order to give ourselves kind of the more grueling, nasty game that we enjoy fighting out. And part of that was because we were the big thing was on the last day we had a couple of players drop out, and that kind of threw Nuno's entire pairings for how he wanted to run the final day into kind of a flux mess. And by pairing me and Alex up for a couple of those battles, he solved the major problem. And we were perfectly fine with that. Alex and I had, that last game especially was just epic, because it was me and him fighting over Fort Dunst. And we had 2 very interestingly matched war bands, and we decided to play where we didn't respawn any of our units. So we made it into an absolute bloodbath down to the last 2 models. And we absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it sounded like you guys had fun. What I will say is that encounter felt very fitting for the warbands you like to play and for Alex as a player. Like, Alex as a person, that's very much a scenario that he, I think, either enjoys writing or enjoys finding himself in, or these grueling, drawn-out fights where there's serious consequences for losing here. And you are outgunned, you are, I won't say outmatched, even though I think Alex vocalized that he felt a little outmatched with his Wilder Core. That kind of like last defense and probably no one's going to make it out alive is something that he really likes.
Yeah.
So it felt very fitting for you two. Even though in the moment I actually kind of felt like, I'm like, man, I wish that they could have played more people. I felt like the guys played each other a lot.
And like I said, the end, it was kind of inadvertent, but, I still felt like I got to play a good mix of people. There was one person who specifically wanted to make sure they played me. The guy with the ogres, and I had his name on the tip of my tongue exactly 3 milliseconds before I wanted to speak it. I think the only...
Graham.
Yeah. He specifically wanted to take his old Middenheim ogres against the guy who was renowned for playing Bretonians, and he was great. He put a bounty on himself and dared anybody to kill his hero.
Yes!
And I'm just like, I love the fucking audacity. Like, I love that so much for you. And we had an excellent game on a lava board that was just like everybody was catching fire in the face. Like, guns were going hot and ephemerals were blasting off, and it was very much a game of could he overrun me before I was able to, outrun him on certain points. So it was a fun game. Like, I don't think I had And this is good, and this is going to go deep for a second here. I have been very, very reluctant to participate in events since the first events I attended, when I first started gaming. I went to a grand tournament, very excited as a young, naive Bretonian player in 2001, because the grand tournament happened to be hosted in my hometown. There was a grand tournament. I can't remember if it was 2000, 2001. I want to say 2001, because it was my first year of college. And it was an experience that I walked in having spent all of this time building 2,000 points of Bretonians, of getting an army ready, trying desperately to learn my rules. And then I was going to go and have this fun grand narrative, experience where I got to be the Knights of Bretonia, doing noble and amazing things, charging around and hitting people in the face with lances. And the experience I had basically almost ended any desire I ever had to play a game ever again in my life. It was, I ran into some very, and I understand now in hindsight and in the experience of, now being 42 versus being 21, that I had the devil's own luck in drawing the people I did. That the two players that I played for the first two games were just the worst possible representative examples of people in our hobby. And they just so happened to play against a brand new Bretonian player who was still trying to learn his rules while they were trying to win an event. And, I freely accept I didn't know my rules as well as I should. But then again, what new player does? I made some pretty egregious mistakes and was called out for them, but I felt like I was very conciliatory when I made the mistake and backed the mistake back to a correct point. And, without getting too deep into the weeds on this, I had a very negative experience and I really hated it. I'd had no fun playing. I felt like I was constantly being put into a back foot negative position where I was having zero fun whatsoever. And it was the exact opposite of the experience I wanted and expected to have going into this. In many ways, this was the first full event that I have played all the way through in any setting, and almost, I guess the Weekender kind of counts as one, but, being that I was hip deep involved in the planning of that tournament, I wasn't necessarily going to say that I kind of give it a wash as being something I played in and had fun, but I don't count it as, like going to a place run not by you, playing full games in somebody else's tournament. And this was that experience, and I had an absolute blast. I got to play a lot of different people, got to meet a lot of very cool people, got to interact, in a lot of ways. Did I play as many people as I necessarily would have wanted to? I think the fun thing with those kinds of events were, it's like, I wish I could have played everybody. Like, I wish we'd had enough time to do a game with everybody. Yeah. If I'm going to be blunt honest with it. And the fact that I still got to play a good number of people and met some really cool folks. Like, I think my funnest moment is when I got the Baron of Dice people to come check out the narrative event after I was just like, okay, first game, my dice were not with me, so I had to reorient. And they got me some properly thematic Barrack Mornar dice for my baking company, and ever since that moment, I felt like I was rolling appropriately. But
yeah, then this bastard handed me some dice for my Bretonians.
Hey, it was bound to happen. Like, first off, massive plug for Baron of Dice. His dice are fantastic. Like, I love the colors. I love the creativity. They feel good in the hand, and they roll hot.
Yeah, I just pulled mine out right now.
Yep.
Yeah, these feel amazing.
Like, I just got
them out and rolled them right now.
Yeah, because I believe I got you the black and red with the white fleur-de-lis in their smaller size, but the square edges.
Yeah.
I may have ordered myself 50 of them for my upcoming Bretonian army too, because I fell so in love with how they felt and looked. To bring it back to the core of, I was so happy that you got to go to Everwinter with us. You got to experience, that I almost call it the start to finish full narrative experience of having an idea, building that idea, putting that idea onto the tabletop, playing that idea, and then seeing what insanity happens when you actually roll dice and have to put them on the tabletop. And it's a thing in narrative gaming that I think is the pinnacle of the experience, is when all that hard work, effort, and theory crafting gets to actually meet the rubber on the road. And you get to see your characters in action. You get to see what actually happens and occurs. And sometimes that thing you really want it to be, your most awesome centerpiece and kick ass and do all the amazing things, is the one that whiffs. Every time. And that thing you never expected to happen just turns into something insane. And it becomes a thing of myth and legend. And you see around you the people who grab onto it, who perpetuate, because it's just like Grotwick, I think. What they actually did was pretty cool. But it was the amplification and the impact in everybody around you that got to experience it with you that turned it truly into something magical and special. And
it was us begging Nuno to let Grotwick become a hero.
Yes. I'm so glad I got that magic item too.
He got the item.
Yep,
I never got to use it, but the next thing he was going to do was use Inspiring Presence on Vaethan and make her get in there.
But it's like, now you have a reason to say now, okay, like, how do I, what can I do now with the rules and the narrative build-up to actually make this a character? How do I just, give him this magic item and say that's permanently part of this Fighter's War Scroll, or can we find a Noblar character who does exist in one of these war bands for you to pimp up, or is this Grotwick goes off to found his own loon shrine and it's all gets all the time now?
Oh boy. Oh, Craven.
King, we can call his great mushroom the Continental. There you go, you're welcome.
Oh my god. Oh
yeah.
No.
But, now it becomes the next question of what comes next. And with that, I think we can give this a hard outro.
We've tried. Do we call it? We go to roll attacks. We've already done the charge. Now the outro is always roll to attack.
Yep. Having charged, now it's time to resolve that combat.
Thank you, Kai, for being on as always. You can find us at each of our social medias. So at the Hobbytide on Twitter, if it's still functional by the time this comes out, and I think it's just at Kylie Otis on Twitter for you.
Yeah, I'll be blunt honest in the fact that it's I have never been exactly a huge social media guy, but the thing I will say is, if you want to come hang out with me and do this whole narrative kick, animositycampaigns.com. Join the Discord, get in on the fun. That is where I do the formative amount of my time spending when I'm staring at screens. So if you are interested in all in really interacting with me or in what we do and what I profess the most to do, come join us there in our community of crazy narrative war gamers. And we don't have a campaign always happening, but we're always a community involved in the hobby. So join us for the fun. Come find me there. They've promoted me to GM now. I am no longer the moderator, so woe unto everybody.
Oh yeah, that happened too.
I have more power.
You know, I meant to bring a Grail Cup and give you a Slurpee at Everwinter Con, but...
Oh, that would have been amazing. Oh, you're just going to have to do that again sometime.
Next time. And I think that's going to be it. We'll catch you next time, guys. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We really don't.
Look, at some point,
if
we're going to talk...
we don't know what part of this is even going to get out there.
It's fair. Like, we recorded a lot, and about half of it has to be, committed to a storm vault somewhere, at least to get out into the realms and cause havoc.
Yeah.
But
take it easy, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Charge!
Another day to lose control. There's a fire in my bones. My sight gets blurry, pushing back the tears. Should take a leap of faith and face my fear. I blame it on the voices that are in my head, wondering